Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone, in this week's episode of Retro Movie Review Theater. In 1984, Lorimar and Universal released a film that would go on to become one of the 80s true cult classics, and remain one since. The Last Starfighter, the first film to rely so heavily on a new technology called computer-generated images, and used for the first time in film production, a Cray X-MP supercomputer tried to bring something different and exciting to theaters. But we're putting the cart before the horse here, so before we get into the CGI, let's talk about what the film is actually about. If you want 80s cheesiness, this is your film. Simple script writing, simple characters, the 80s trope of the young man who is struggling to move up in the world and find value in his life to become something more than what he is. Or to put it another way, this is not a complicated film. But to really understand this film, one must realize that this is a retelling of the King Arthur tale of the Sword and the Stone. But instead of a sword, it is the skill to become a great starfighter, to become an elite member of a society that helps make the world better, to achieve beyond your dreams. And with that in mind, let's get into the plot. Alex Rogan, played by Lance Guest, yes, that Lance Guest from Jaws: The Revenge, lives with his mother and his younger brother Lewis at the Starbright Trailer Park in Canyon Country, California. The inhabitants of the park are mostly older, elderly people just eking out the remaining days of their lives, except for Maggie, Alex's girlfriend. Alex is in charge of maintenance in the trailer park. If someone's electricity blows out, he has to spend a day fixing the fuse box. Someone clogs their toilet, he's the one who shows up with a plunger. Need to hoist a large TV antenna on the roof of your mobile home? Alex is the guy to help you out. Now, keep in mind, Alex's mother is a waitress and there is no father, so it is unclear why Alex does this work. Is it out of kindness or is he actually getting paid? It's never really explained. In the meanwhile, he is waiting to hear about a loan application that will help him get out of the trailer park and into a real college in a real life. His only source of entertainment, besides Maggie, is an arcade game called Starfighter, which is where we first meet Alex as he plays until he's called away. One night, the entire mobile park gathers around Alex as he attempts to break the record on the video game, which seems to be the most excitement to hit the trailer park since forever. Alex does break the record and then celebrates with Maggie until he receives his rejection letter from his loan, at which point he is not only angry but feels a sense of hopelessness in improving his life. Now at that moment, the arcade machine starts to almost seize up, and as Alex turns to look at it, a loud exhaust noise is heard behind him. He turns and there sits a very odd-looking vehicle with winged doors, and yes, the same people who made this vehicle based on a DeLorean would go on to make another famous vehicle a year later, but I digress. The door opens and a voice inside asks where he can find the person who broke the record on the game. Alex answers that it was he, and the man introduces himself as Centauri as Alex gets in the strange vehicle. There's another person sitting in the shadows in the back seat and is introduced as Centauri's assistant, Beta, who shakes Alex's hand, which shocks him, and then quickly exits the vehicle while Centauri begins to drive at about 300 miles an hour. Now, as Alex gets nervous, Centauri shifts his car into a spacecraft and takes off, and what you get is the first fully CGI scene in movies. Now, as the craft speeds through the galaxy towards Rylos, the homeworld of the Star League, Centauri reveals himself to be an alien and the man who created the video game for a specific purpose, but he does not tell Alex exactly why he's been taken. Soon they arrive on Rylos at the Starfighter base. Centauri abandons Alex to the inhabitants, who give him a uniform and a universal translator, which is actually a digital board from inside a digital watch, but in 1984, it looked cool. He meets the other alien recruits and the ambassador of the Star League, who informed him of his mission. So it turns out that the arcade game was actually a test, which they call Excalibur, another callback to the Sword and the Stone, and Centauri designed it so he could find recruits for the Star League and make a little cash on the side. Now here is where we also get our introduction to Zur, and Alex quickly realizes that he is living out the story of the video game. Zur appears as a giant hologram of just a head. He threatens his father, the ambassador, broadcasts the execution of a spy, and we learn that Zur has aligned himself with the Kodan Empire, a race of demonic-looking aliens bent on breaching the frontier defenses and taking over the Star League, a federation of hundreds of peaceful planets. Completely freaked out at this revelation, Alex tries to find a way back home when he runs into Grig, a reptilian-looking alien who is a navigator. Every Gunstar, the ship starfighters fly, has a navigator and a gunner. After explaining to Grig that he does not want to be a starfighter, to which no one can understand why anyone should give up such an honor, Grig finds Centauri and Alex is brought back home. Meanwhile, the Beta unit left back on Earth has morphed into a replica of Alex, and this is all played for comic relief. Being ignorant of human interactions, this Beta insults Maggie and struggles to fit in as a replacement for his human counterpart. Now, a lot of these scenes with the Beta were included afterward and reshot, which is why Alex looks like he's wearing a silly little wig, because he cut his hair for another movie. So all of these shots were redone and put in a movie after the production was completed because it tested well with audiences. Now, while in transit back to Earth, the Codons break through the frontier defenses and destroy the Starleague base and all but one of the Gunstars. Having spies of his own, Xur learns that Alex is returned home and sends bounty hunters to kill him and eliminate the Last Starfighter, the only one who can stand in his way of total domination. When Alex, the Beta, and Centauri realize this, it leaves Alex no choice but to return and fight, as Xur will never allow Alex to continue to live and pose a possible threat to his rule. In the shootout between a bounty hunter and Centauri is wounded, but is still able to return Alex to the Starleague, where they discover that the base is nearly destroyed. Unfortunately, Centauri dies as Alex and Grig look on. Still hesitant, but willing to try, Alex and Grig board a prototype Gunstar with advanced weapons and shielding and take off. The two bond while training on the ship until they spot a Kodan freighter, which they chase into an asteroid and destroy. Alex's first real battle is complete and successful. Soon, more Kodan freighters arrive and Alex and Grig must defeat them. Grig explains to Alex that the Kodan will attack by sending their fighters in first, followed by the command ship, but if they can destroy the communications array on the command ship, it will confuse the fighters, giving them the advantage. Alex proposes that they play hide and seek in the asteroid until the Armada passes by and then attack it from behind, avoiding the fighters at first and giving them a chance to take out the communications. Grig also explains that this Gunstar ship that they're in has a special capability, the Death Blossom, something only to be used as a measure of last resort, and that Alex will have to rely on his skills until such time occurs. Now, as Alex and Grig wait on the asteroid back on Earth, another bounty hunter arrives and attacks Maggie and the Beta unit, believing that this is really Alex. The Beta takes this chance to explain everything to Maggie, as Maggie finds out that he's really a robot, and then the Beta sacrifices himself to protect Alex. Otherwise, Xur might find out that there is a starfighter still out there looking for them. So, still thinking the Last Starfighter is dead, the Codons breach the frontier defenses and enter the war zone. Alex and Grig stick to their plan and it goes smoothly, knocking out the communications, eliminating the enemy fighters' comms and radar. This gives them a chance to launch an assault, which is successful at first, but soon they become overwhelmed. Now, Alex prepares to use a Death Blossom, but he has to wait until all the enemies are in range. As their Gunstar is bombarded, they hold out until Grig gives Alex the go-ahead. Activating a new weapon, the Gunstar revolves in place at a high rate of speed, firing multiple laser blasts until the entirety of the Kodan fighters are obliterated. Grig and Alex turn their attention to the command ship, where on board, Xur has escaped and the Kodans are left. Alex and Grig attack and render the ship dead in space. The nearby moon's gravitational pull draws the command ship towards it, where it collides and disintegrates. War over, Alex and Grig win, the Starleague wins. The two are then received as heroes. Alex is asked to stay to rebuild the Starleague. Centauri returns, turns out he wasn't dead after all, just recuperating. Alex and Grig return to Earth, meet everyone at the trailer park, and pick up Maggie to go back to Rylos to live happily ever after. I'll admit, even for 1984, this is a very basic story, but it's a classic story. Very similar to Star Wars. The young man from a rural area rises up with the help of an older mentor to take on and defeat an evil empire. And even the cast and crew commented that there was nothing new that they could do that George Lucas or Steven Spielberg hadn't already done at that time. And although this film is considered a cult classic of the early 80s, at the time, on a budget of $15 million, it only made about $27 million worldwide, barely breaking even. Now, there were talks about merchandising action figures by Galoob that never materialized. Atari made prototype games for their 5200 consoles and an arcade game, but they never made it into production, although some claim to have the prototype games in their possession still to this day. In 2007, a musical version was produced for the New York Musical Theater Festival and performed, and talks of a sequel and a reboot have lingered for decades, all caught up in lawsuits over who actually has the rights to the IP, because Lorimar went bankrupt and Universal and Warner Brothers and the original writer claimed intellectual property rights over the characters and storylines, so we may never see The Last Starfighter revived. And this is also why you cannot get it on any streaming platforms. You must rent or buy it outright to view it. But the question remains, is it worth it? And to that I say, hell yeah, it's worth it. Of all the 80s sci-fi you could watch and enjoy, this is one film that left a legacy. The CGI, being used at such a high volume, at such an early time, being the first to really kick down that door. Yes, I know, I agree with the director that the landscapes look like melted chocolate ice cream. Even he admits they ran out of time and money to make them look better. In 2024, these visuals not only look primitive, they look silly. But The Last Starfighter, because it is a simple story and one that is black and white, good versus evil, an everyman character who even under great self-doubt still dives headlong into danger, is a timeless story, and that's why it's lasted. This is why after 40 years, this film still has a following and is still included on the list of great 80s fantasies film. Is it epic like Star Wars? No. Is it complicated and full of twists and turns like Close Encounters? No. Is it a film that will be shown to film students as an example of high art? No, definitely not. But that's just it. It doesn't try to be anything like that. The Last Starfighter is a reflection of the 80s itself. Nothing was presented as too complicated. There was always a right and a wrong, a moral choice to make, a sacrifice to be made, a service to a greater cause to be given. It's just freaking fun and enjoyable, and when you realize the effort that needed to go into this film, the risks and chances it took on unproven technology, that is something I can respect and appreciate every time I see it. And that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have you seen this film? Do you think it deserves its status as an 80s cult classic? And do you think current Hollywood could do it justice with a remake? As well, if you want more pop culture fun, check out my retro movie review playlist and my general movie review playlist by clicking on the thumbnails at the end of the video. And if you did like this video, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe for future content. It really helps out the channel each week. I thank you for watching. Remember, I'm still your reluctant Grig going from south of the border. Salud and a huevo.